Well, good evening, and thank you for joining us. This is the Town Hall Get to Know Show, and we have Dr. Sofie Nubani with us this evening. And we are talking about C for curiosity. Are you curious? I'm curious. And are you curious how we can use our curiosity and our imagination to make us more creative and more successful in the things that we're trying to achieve in our life? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about this evening. I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Sofie Nubani. She's been on the show before. Such a dynamic individual. She just released her book about a month ago, as I recall, Optimize Your Creative Mindset. We're going to be talking from a portion of that book this evening, chapter 8, and that's about curiosity. And just to help you understand maybe a little bit more about Dr. Sofie, she is a Creatrix Interpersonal Executive Coach. She has a lot of qualifications. She's a master practitioner and certified NLP coach. She is also a certified Laughter Yoga Instructor, amongst many other social and emotional intelligence coaches, motivational coach, certified Reiki instructor. And so she's going to be here this evening telling us about curiosity, how that plays into a creative mindset. And so without further ado, I would love to bring in the beautiful and intelligent queen of laughter, as well as wisdom, Dr. Sofie Nubani. Welcome, Dr. Sofie.
Hello, hello. Thank you for this warm introduction.
You're,
Blessings.
you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us again this evening. We certainly appreciate you. We're looking forward to learning, growing, becoming more creative, and creating a future and success in not only in our personal lives, but in the lives of maybe if we have a business and our just interpersonal relationships. And you just are a grand master, just like Bob Choate, of the wisdom that you possess to help people do, well, utilize more of their brain. And maybe we'll talk about that, because I've heard a lot of stuff lately about utilizing your brain. I think I was reading that in your book about how we think. We were always told 10%, we're only using 10% of our brain. But in fact, it's different than that. We use our whole
Yes.
brain all the time. And so we were fed this story that wasn't necessarily true. So why don't you just start? You can tell the viewers, and I would just want to ask the viewers, okay, if you happen to be watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can put comments, and we will try and address some of those comments. We'll take your comments, whether you have a thought or whether you have a question for Dr. Sofie. We'll certainly try and address those. We are streaming on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple and Android TV. So if you have a smart TV, you can download the E360 TV app. This show is brought to you by LWN Live with Nature Foundation. We are a resource for positive transformational change, and that's what we're going to be talking about as well tonight. So making that positive transformational change with respect to our curiosity. So Dr. Sofie, just tell us a little bit about yourself to the viewers and help them to familiarize yourself with you.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. You are such an inspirational host, and it's such a pleasure being back on your show. You're doing amazing things, and I am always intrigued and curious about what's upcoming next for you. And thank you for everyone watching today. I'm Dr. Sofie Nubani. I'm a Creatrix Interpersonal Executive Coach and author of Optimize Your Creative Mindset book series. And I do have a lot of different backgrounds in regards of NLP and psychology, mindset, energy healing, meditation, as well as workshop facilitation. I have a doctorate in spiritual development and working on my transpersonal psychology as well, counseling. So with that, there comes a lot of learning and teachings and experience and growth. And I am so happy to share with you at your disposal what it is that I need to share. So thank you, Stephen.
I really am. And I want to learn and grow. I'm going to we talked earlier before the show about the fact, well, you are a master practitioner in NLP. I think NLP is something that I'd really like to get certified with, honestly. I'm familiar with the cognitive behavioral therapy, but we talked about that. Now that's a little bit different than NLP. And it's all about the thinking. That's, I've recognized that. It's about our thinking. It's about maybe retraining our thinking, and so that we can have a positive mindset, a mindset that attracts the things that we want to have in our life. And so I'd like to talk about curiosity tonight. It's actually chapter 8. I've got your book right here. I've been reading through that. Love it. Oh, I tell you, this is a manual. This is, well, it's so much information in here. It's like it's going to take me a minute to get through it. It will.
It
But I
is a
want,
big book and very diversified, and I really, with the intention of putting as much as information that I can help for a foundation of a base, because it is one out of the 3 book series. And if we had to put everything together, we're looking over 1,500 pages, and that will not work, obviously. But felt that book 1 is a good foundation. And once people are mastering the art of practicing creative thinking and curiosity and openness, and a lot of the teachings in the book, they can really elevate their creative levels. And that's really the purpose, is to prepare the readers who are curious about creativity, that they will excel in that area by giving them tools and strategies and new concepts introduced that will stimulate and charge their thinking processes. And I really feel if we can always start with that, we have will eliminate a lot of hindering of the creative process, because not everybody knows how to, even though it could be natural to some. But the majority of people, when you talk to them, even though as a child you are very curious and you could be very creative without really having any manuals to learn. you
amazing
get
thing,
you
right?
get these 2 years olds today, they're holding a phone and taking pictures, and you're like, when did they learn this? Literally.
Yes, exactly.
uh,
It's innate, is it not, to have
it is, but
curiosity?
it is developed because we have so learned not to really go into our innate nature by reprogramming through school systems and causing a creative crisis. Then we have to unlearn what we learned and learn back what we naturally know.
I certainly have had to do that. I've had to unlearn a whole bunch of stuff that I thought was the truth, right? And I thought it was the truth for a long time, but then I learned, hey, if I looked at it from like 180 degrees or the other side of the street, wow, it didn't make a whole lot of sense then.
This is so interesting, Stephen, what you just said.
Okay.
It's a very, very important point. If we can come to such realization that the big T of truth may change to us depending on our experiences and knowings and knowledge, that we be more open and flexible and less judgmental and allowing for our growth,
Hmm.
because it's all about perception. The truth is perception. Expanded perception comes with new experience and ideas, shared thoughts, that the truth that you have learned for many years that you never questioned maybe at one point, becomes different later after you question. And if you're curious and have intellectual curiosity, that's going to lead you to answers or paths that you or even your ancestors haven't gone through yet. And it was your time to discover that. And that was by you questioning those beliefs or truths, and then you discovered different. So when you shared that the truth is different for you now, I really believe that it's a very strong point, that when we're flexible to adapt, that this truth could be different, Now we are listening to others with more of the purpose of not just to learn, but to understand. And that shifts many things. And if many leaders and influencers can really be in that space, they can create a lot more and develop a lot faster, better, stronger communities around them. Absolutely. So that's a very good point, Stephen. I had to really congratulate you for sharing it, because people need to hear that. People need to know that and be aware that how that actually transformed your life,
Yes, it
and you
did.
allowed new truth into your life by accepting and being curious enough to learn more about them, enough to kind of, this resonates. Well, what if it does make sense? Well, let me try it. And then now you created new neural pathways in your brain, and now you have new patterns, and your behavior and habits are changed.
It took me a long time. I had to be patient, but
Mm-hmm.
I had to be diligent too, and that was and consistent. And that was the important factor, is just sticking to it. And even though at times I'd fall down, I'd have to pick myself back up and dust myself off and say, keep on going, keep on going. But it was being about truthful to myself too, and that was a hard thing. And it's a hard thing to get really honest with ourselves and recognize, well, maybe I wasn't right, even though I thought I was. And to try and get myself to that center balance point of, hey, you don't really have to be opinionated about things. You need to accept what people say and allow that to be, even if I might not agree with it. And then
Mm-hmm.
just let it resonate with me and figure out, okay, well, how is this going to impact, or what's the positive impact that I need to take away from this? What
That
prompted?
alone, Stephen, is a process. What you just mentioned
Okay,
is a class on its own, literally.
and
Because if
go
you
ahead.
can talk to people who are in the kind of challenges that you faced, and the title might be different from one person, it could be grief, the other anxiety, the other depression, it's just titles, right? But the
Yeah.
soul is at disturbance and not at ease, at heaviness and not at blurriness and not clarity. And they all boil down to a process that would help transition them. And sometimes, like, something helped you at one point, right? And you use
Hmm.
different areas. You can summarize that and put it all in one little manual for someone and say, hey, listen, out of the 3-year process that took me to really go deep, high, and expand with everything, I got everything in this one little area that really worked, and I can really guide you through it. Because now it just makes it a lot easier to find the solutions for those kind of problems. So when you mention patience, people hear about patience, but how many are able to practice patience? You
I
see.
can still struggle. Okay, let's just be honest here. I can still struggle with patience, but that was such a learned behavior to be impatient, and
Mm-hmm.
literally a lifestyle in Southern California. I mean, we want it now, and we want it convenient. It had to be that way. So that was a lot
You're
of
right, it is a
unlearning.
lifestyle.
Yeah, it
They
was a
talked
lifestyle.
about millennials ordering stuff on shopping, and they were the highest, where they would pay extra to get it faster shipped. And
Yeah,
the mindset, you're having a generation now that if you think you're impatient, we're having a lot more that are coming up with a lot less being impatient. And that's why they rely on technology so much, and they really need it because they really want that fast gratification and fast, things just happening tomorrow, today, and now,
yeah,
literally.
exactly. And it makes me think of something. Although I'll come back here to curiosity, but I remember, and I want to say maybe the '90s, talking about hearing this concept, and there was a movie. I don't know that really related, but cocooning, and how we're staying in our house, having things brought to our house, not having to go outside, not having to interact with others like we did when we were younger. And so that cocooning effect is, wow. It's like, well, definitely we got, especially with COVID-19. How much more
Yes,
cocooned can we get than that?
yes, yes. I mean,
And for
unbelievable.
what
But
it's worth, I just want to do a news break right now that I just saw. Apparently, hopefully it's correct, but I understand that the WHO, the World Health Organization, just released and said that they don't think that staying at home in isolation and masks and all this stuff is necessarily the answer. They're totally reversing their statement about what's been told to us already.
yeah, again, another truth to be revealed.
Some of us kind of knew this, but all right. So maybe they're fessing up. All right. Maybe they had to stand on the other side of the street and go, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, yeah, true.
So I'm curious to know why they're doing that. But I want to go back. What really prompted you to write this book on creativity? And the thing about it is, we're talking about chapter 8, which is quite lengthy. And in no way can we cover all of this tonight. Well, we'd love to, but we just can't. We can't do it in one show. I'm hoping that you'll come back and we can talk about it more. But
Blessings.
what what was the motivating force for you to say, you know what, I'm just gonna, because we talked about it, you took time off, you took 9 months out of your life to
Mm-hmm.
sit down and focus on writing this book, Optimize Your Creative Mindset. Why? What was it? What was the motivation there?
So in the past few years, being an NLP practitioner and doing the laughter mindset experience workshops and so forth, I had been more active into social media than I have in the previous years of just, more with community and people, and so forth.
Hmm.
And I started noticing a lot of repetition in many areas when I'm looking, including in areas of intellectual interest. Words are repeated so many often, gazillions of times, and concepts all the time. And then I saw some also that only like, okay, you model something, but and you only model it. And the teaching is you model it and that's it. And I really, that was something in me that I was always like wanting to, like, what if you just added and then use how it can work for you and what you can create from there, and not just be compliant and just take what comes only, and then and you learn it and you don't grow from there. So I felt that there is a need for innovation, there's a need for creative thinking, there is a need for mind expansion and getting out of the imitation and limitation and copying kind of energies, and literally allow people to have a manual where they have a tool of how do I do this? How can I start? What if I consider, which most people, when you ask them, are you creative? They would tell you, 90% would say no. They don't think they're creative. Like right off the bat, they just don't think they're creative. What it is, they just never really tapped into different areas of their conscious and subconscious mind experiences and
Mhm.
allowing that kind of expansion and a state of flow and the incubation, the stages of creativity, the understanding of the process of it, for them to give themselves a chance and permission to really tap into this amazing zone.
Well,
And
go
I
ahead.
felt if I can get it into studies, whether it's how it affects on our brain, our
Yes.
behavior, how we can ask different questions, what are the different mindset that can stimulate such action, and stories that can really inspire people towards creativity, which we do have amazing contributors in the book with very inspiring stories. And then I created two new concepts that I felt would really give somebody, hey, you can use this now, you can take this and actually apply it right away, more practical practice. And I wanted that to help in organizations and businesses, because we were experiencing, and prior to the pandemic, 70% of the Americans, corporate America, suffered from mental health illnesses.
Hmm.
70% is a big, huge number. Mind you, globally, we're on a very big rise and more now than ever. So, what could be something or things that can assist in transitioning and overcoming and transcending such situations and emotions, and a community and a society of burdened souls that are walking around, and those are our leaders, our fathers, our neighbors, our
Hmm.
communities. So I felt the least you can start is with self, of what do you have or know or can designate time and delegate towards serving humanity on a bigger scale. And then that was my intrinsic motivation towards what I was doing.
That's wonderful, and I'm sure that that's why we're connected too, is because it is about serving the community and helping people become the best person they can possibly be. That really is
Amen.
the purpose of what we're trying to do for our communities. Now you describe curiosity as a combination of creativity, openness, and inquisitiveness. Can you explain those and how that works in creativity to the viewers?
Sure. You can consider that curiosity is the driver of creativity and innovation, literally, because it starts with that being curious. And it's like a superpower. When you are curious, you are questioning, you want to discover, you want to know more. When you're curious, it allows you to be more open and more inquisitive, and basically intellectual curiosity can definitely lead you to amazing places where you are connecting the dots and your associations with your association cortex with your brain, with your past experiences and memory recalls, which helps then in learning. And thus, when we learn something, then we can go to the next step and understand it. And all these steps and this foundation is very vital for the creative process. And I would say, in addition to that, I see that here you are.
You were doing very well. Uh, well, okay, tell us about this reward factor that's involved in our creativity
I didn't
and
hear the
being
first part.
curiosity. Explain to us the reward. So we get curious,
Yes.
and there's behind the scenes, maybe not even being conscious or aware that there's a reward involved here for us, and maybe that's what's driving us to be more curious.
Um, do you know about that? The black salt in Sarasota that was discovered.
No, I hadn't heard. Why don't you tell us about that then? Black salt.
You
No,
know how they have like the pink salt, and then you have like
yes,
different types of salt.
there's a like a salt therapy place, I believe, here in town. And so maybe that's what you're referring
That's
to.
like the float, like the salt rooms, maybe.
Okay.
I was just testing to see, you see, when we ask questions, right?
Yes.
It gets you to think,
Yes.
and then it gets you curious because now you're trying to see salt. Oh, there's a salt therapy. Now you're trying to associate this thing with something else because it got you to be curious about this thing that you didn't hear of, for
Right.
example. Got it? So it was
Excellent.
just a little exercise.
You
But
tricked me there, didn't you?
when you watch a movie and then you're in the middle and there's action, and then somebody calls you and you really have to go, and now because your friend's locked out and you've got to close it, and then you want to come back, you want to know what happened in the end because you're curious,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's a natural instinct to be curious, but we have stopped practicing curiosity as a society.
Is it because, well, we're curious when we're young? And then you mentioned that we're changing because we're developing new habits that are squashing this curiosity, which is curiosity part of imagination as well, then?
It's
Or not
different.
necessarily?
They're not the same.
Okay.
Curiosity can. stimulate and supercharge imagination by asking, because now you're curious, now you discovered something, and now you saw it, and now you start visualizing. You were curious about your friend's new car, and then they share it with you, but then now the color, put something in your mind, and you're like, oh my God, now maybe you end up painting a wall in your house with the color of the car or something, because it sparked your imagination in a different way. So everything is intertwined somehow
Hmm.
into the creative process, because it is an important trait of creativity. Imagination is, and so is curiosity. You see, now talking about the brain, what they found out, that before we have a reward system, and that's what releases the dopamine hormone in our body, hormones of a reward feeling. And that normally comes when something comes intrinsic. Okay. So when the curiosity is stimulated with an intrinsic interest, desire, motivation, right?
Hmm.
That's when your brain starts working different, and all these hormones and everything starts firing in a different way. Why? Because even the learning, you go to school, you study. If
Hmm.
somebody asks you, what did you learn in 10th grade in your history class, maybe 5 people will answer out of 100 more detail, because a lot of them might have forgotten a lot of the details.
You hit
When
history.
we
That was my favorite subject. I loved history.
You see, so you'd be one of those 5.
Yes. Right. Let's
Yeah.
let's
So
go to
when
a
it's
question. We have a
intrinsic, you had
question.
interest in curiosity. You had interest in the subject. You were
Yes.
curious. So when you were learning, right, you were
Yes.
able to record it different. There is a hormone released, and the pleasure hormone. They found that dopamine is released not only when we are getting something, but the anticipation of getting something. And that's where
Yes.
you're in your curious zone, waiting to find out on something, and you're excited. The team is
Yeah.
playing a football game, and they're like, oh, no, 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 go there, bro, the ball, don't, like they're like all into it before the ball hits a basket or something. And their emotions and everything, that anticipation itself, it stimulates you and moves you, and has a reward system. Going to watch the match, being at the match, the winning of the match, all of that stages to reach to the end result truly activates our brain in a different way. So, and it really does with curiosity a lot. So practicing curiosity can really increase your associations and understanding, expand your vision, your consciousness, perception, and so forth.
Excellent. Very, very well stated. Now, I want to go to this question we have from one of our viewers. We know this gentleman, the Grand Master of Transformational Change, and we appreciate you joining us this evening, Bob Cho. He's talking, and it kind of led right towards, we're in the flow for real. I know that, and that's why it's coming. It led right to my next question. But he's asking questions is important, and asking the right questions are even more important to get the right answers. And how does that play into curious questioning?
Okay,
Okay,
the
let's put it back
first
up.
part.
Asking questions is important, and asking the right questions are important to get the right answers. Okay. So asking the appropriate question is going to get the answer. So you need to frame your question properly. But so how does that play into curious questioning so that you can find out more? Like, I love history, so we're talking about, like, I like the West, the Old West. So I would ask, okay, what is about this Jesse James that made him so famous? What type of thing? So why is it important to ask these questions? And it kind of leads itself. I think I can tail my question into it. Is how does leveraging your curiosity help a person learn about themselves too? So that's asking the right questions. So let me just take that a step further, that we're asking the right
It's
questions
very
of ourselves.
related, and I can understand why you felt it was. Bob was, hey, I mean, he's right in.
He was reading my mind practically.
Yes, yes. So, just like in the very beginning of thinking styles, when we ask the right questions, and sometimes it's okay, just start by asking questions. Right questions are going to lead you to better solution and better problem solving. But what do you tell someone who's starting to get into this new practice? I want to practice curiosity, and I want to practice asking questions, because you know I haven't really been asking questions. I've been just going with the flow and just letting everything in, and then I go with whatever I feel, and I just never really questioned much. I didn't want to go further and expand more. Asking new box questions is very, very important. And what I mean by new box, like new box thinking, new box answers, is thinking in and out of the box. Because once we are in the box, and I know everyone wants to be out of the box and no box, it's just a metaphor to make it easy for your brain to get the symbols and images of what we are discussing. And of course, there is not a physical real box. It's just for you to be able to relate. And the brain works better with processing in images. Okay. Why are we in the box when we're in the box? Because you gotta always be able to measure when you're out of the box how your progress was, and that's how you can continue to do well and be more successful in the future. If you just forget
Yeah.
about the box totally, okay,
Yes.
truly you're not having the right assessment to your growth and progress. So we want to be realistic while we are optimistic, and then we go out of the box and we start looking at all the different possible solutions.
Mm-hmm.
From there, we can practice either design thinking, depending on what we are creating or wanting to receive. We can create lateral thinking, use that process. We can go ridiculous and do blue sky thinking. Because
Mm-hmm.
if Elon Musk did not do a blue sky thinking on going to Mars, for example, nobody would have maybe at one point thought that that's something, even a discussion, regardless if it ends up being a reality for everybody or maybe not. I
Mm-hmm.
still give him credit for his genius, out of the box, blue sky thinking, which is what is ridiculously maybe not possible to all, many, or majority of people, and taking that as a possibility still, and evaluation to where you are or where you would like to be. So asking questions is very important. And to help ask the right questions, maybe we need to be introduced to the right thinking styles, because now it's just going to be easier. Like you have a cabinet, there's files in it, and you say, oh, question. And now say, oh, let me practice this style of thinking with this type of question. It'll be easier for you to have a foundation to operate and function from. And so higher order questions, and why, what, which, how, all of those are going to always give you more answers to one thing, the same thing. And you add to the same thing, whether it's somebody won, why did they win, how did they win, when did they win, what did they win, right? Now, instead of you just got the answer that this person won, now you got a lot of more intelligence collected for that one thing, because you just asked those extra questions. And now if you're in something and you want to know more, easily tell me more about it. And if that, then what if? And you can elaborate and start mastering asking. So the art of asking questions. Curiosity is all about questions. Curiosity could be a question mark itself. I'm curious, I want to know. I still, I'm curious, I'm interested, I have an intrinsic motivation, and I want to know. That's by asking questions, by finding out, by discovering, by exploring. And that's how we arrive. If you have a map to somewhere and you want to go, but you don't have the physical map, you don't have your GPS, and you go, you might luckily end up somewhere. But if you really want to go to a certain destination and
Right.
you really want to go there, you're going to need maps. You need So what happens? Where am I? If you got lost, what do? Stop at a gas station? Hey, I'm here on this road. I'm supposed to go there. How do I get there? Because I'm lost, right?
Yeah. Well, some men won't do that, though. I know how to get there. They might not ask for some advice.
But yes, so curiosity, asking the right questions,
Yeah.
and learning how to ask questions really is a class on its own. It's a subject on its own. It's important on its own because we have gotten so compliant that people don't want to ask questions. They're just too tired to even ask questions. They'd rather have you do the research, the work, whether it's right or wrong, and they'll just take it. And then now if something goes wrong, they can blame the other person and not themselves. And it's easier to function. So it just becomes a habit. And then we got to break those bad habits and get into better habits by going back to basics and look at little kids and see why they're asking you about everything till they drive you nuts.
That's right, they do, and that's exactly what kids do. And they ask you about all this stuff, and you're going, huh? And I had to personally come to the understanding because I guess it was set in my mind. It's like, why are you asking me such a dumb question? But it's not dumb to them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I know the answer. It's like, well, how come you don't know the answer? Well, because they haven't learned yet. That's why they don't know.
It is very intelligent to ask questions.
There we are. So it is about asking the questions, and that's super important. Now, how does this curiosity quotient that you speak of in chapter 8 play into this? Because people have different, it's like an IQ, but it's a curiosity quotient.
And
How does that?
actually, it was inspired by a business review of Harvard University that I actually read. And then I was curious and I started, researching more about it. It's not mentioned and talked much about. We hear of emotional intelligence and we don't hear much about the C intelligence, whether it's creativity intelligence, cultural intelligence, and curiosity intelligence in this case, which is very vital for our growth. And those who practice that, just imagine uh, leaders in organizations. A curious leader is going to do a lot more for their company than somebody who's not. And the intelligence that falls in place now, they do better collaborations, team building. They're more confident because you see, when we're uncertain of certain things, it might be what fear comes and has a space in our system because we're not sure, we don't know. But by asking questions and being more curious to finding out, it builds confidence, courage. So curiosity is the driver of innovation and creativity. Literally, it's where it starts. And the more curious you are, the more creative you are going to be able to become. So if you think you're doing this much and you start practicing curiosity, now you go there. Because why? You ask questions, you talk to different people, you went and discovered, you read, you talked, there's so much that opened your mind to new ideas that were not available prior. And now you have a lot way to go and do better problem solving for whatever it is you're facing.
What would you say to someone that feels, that's thinking, they want to know more because they are curious, but they're maybe afraid to ask, and they're maybe afraid they're concerned about not because they don't want to be thought. I'm just thinking,
They don't want to
maybe.
think, maybe they think that's stupid, that's a dumb question,
Well,
or people are
you
going to
took the
think
words out of my
something.
mouth. Yeah, yeah. Some people will just be quiet because of that. What would we
Yes,
say to
and
those
let me
people?
tell you something. Once it is related also to validation and acceptance and confidence and self-esteem and self-concept altogether, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we are in that
Yeah.
space, there's such a liberation when you can just literally start having the courage, build it up, and know that the person you're asking, when you don't know of something, and that's happened to me because I was very young and I was always like closer to adults. Like I would want to ask them questions, and of course being all adults in a like a living room talking, and then you're breaking the conversation with your parents' friends. They don't want to be disturbed by the child, but then like literally still asking the question, even though you don't know much about the topic, because you are relating to something that they might know. The person answering normally feels good because now you're looking up to them and you want their opinion. They feel needed and important. And you'll be so surprised how it could really actually turn your life around. So if you know somebody who's really like a guru in something, or expert in something, or mastered a certain craft and they're so good at it, and you're just beginning and you're like, I don't know altogether, when you start asking questions, the person is going to practice more of their information. And that practice, by explaining it to somebody else, it is going to put them at a higher level of knowing and confidence in their own craft. So you actually help somebody else grow by them giving you, you're making space for them to receive and grow more.
That
So
that is
looking at
beautiful.
it from a different angle of why it's okay to ask question, giving yourself the permission to ask question, that might just totally make it the perception that you had for yourself, that because maybe now they're going to think that I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I don't fit enough and all that. But now you're looking at it in a whole different way. In the end, you're going to leave more full, more knowing, versus still unsure and uncertain. So the results could only bring goodness, of course, if it is in a proper condition. I mean, you don't want to be in the midst of a speech and somebody's a speaker, and they're like questions in the end of the thing, and you're like asking question every 5 minutes. So
Hmm.
we're talking about just regular way and asking questions in our environments for growth. Then absolutely, that would be my suggestion, and
And
and the way to look at it.
you go ahead. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. And that's kind of where Robert Brooker's statement just a moment ago about anger, because, I can remember when I was a kid and I was at my grandfather's house and kids were to be seen but not heard, right? And so you don't
Yes.
speak up. It was really old school, but, my grandpa was a very smart man. And so, yes, I would want to learn from him. Absolutely, 100%. But I felt very threatened to be able to do that. And then, of course, like Robert's talking about, you can bring something up and then you get hit with this anger because, like, why are you doing that? I thought you knew your place. Apparently, you don't know that you're supposed to just be quiet. But, you know, what I guess is important to let the viewers know is that take action on that, step into that fear, and don't let that person's anger or anything like that set you back. Know that you were doing the right thing. That's what Dr. Sofie was just sitting here saying about how that was, you're really going to help them if they give it a second thought. Then they know, hey, well, gosh, they asked me, so they must think I am important enough to even ask.
So on an anger part, and is that what he's mentioning, is like how
Yeah,
if the person you're asking has like an angry attitude, right?
angry attitude because you brought up a question, and there's a lot of aspects I know to that. There is.
Right. So, when we're talking maybe personal relationships, right?
Mhm.
We have to use our common judgment to the situation. Somebody tired arrived home, exhausted. All they want to do is shower and maybe eat and go to sleep for that one day. Maybe that question would be addressed in a different time, a better, more appropriate moment that's going to engage the person more. The way we deliver things, so the way we're asking question, the tonality, like where have you been, why aren't you back, that's a question, but that's not the questions that we're trying to invite for creative growth, right?
Right.
I was just curious. You were late. I kind of missed you, what is everything okay? What was there traffic? You can go in a different way and ask the question in another form with more compassion. And that's gonna automatically shift the recipient, if they're normal, not if they're an abusive or somebody who's dangerous for you altogether, that you don't need to be around that toxic energy altogether. But if in normal circumstances, if we deliver with more empathy and more compassion, we are going to gain more strength in our communication and relationship. So make it as a challenge to you that how could I improve my way of asking questions, and how can I measure that? Practice. Practice.
Practice, right? That's the key, isn't it?
Yes.
Just practice it. And the more we practice things, the better we
Practice
get.
makes progress.
It does. And the more we practice it, the better we'll get at it. That's why, say sports teams that they practice 5 days out of the week for that one game they got at the end of the week
Yes.
kind of thing. Yeah,
We're talking about
absolutely.
curiosity. Look how many times we have research that took many years. Even vaccines, this is going to be the abnormal trying to get things like fast drive through McDonald's or something. The truth is, it takes a while for testing and for proper testing to really happen, and for the measurement and to really know. And that's what people do. They stay sometimes years because of their curious and they want to know the answers. They research and research until they've come up to, oh my God, this is it. This is the solution. But that's what curiosity is all about.
Mm-hmm. It is. And the curiosity creates the ideas, which can create the success that we're trying to achieve. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty of it. Maybe you can. I want to get to courage, the acronym of courage, and we'll try and wrap the show with the courage end of it. But before we get to that, I'd like to ask you. Well, I'd like to thank all of the viewers who are watching this evening. We really do appreciate you
Yes.
watching. Thank you. Yeah, we're honored that you're here. If you're watching Facebook or you're watching YouTube, we want you to share this video out. Let's get this message out. If you know somebody that would benefit from learning about curiosity and how curiosity can improve, it can lead to success. It does. It leads to building up your self-esteem as well and being creative. And that's the beauty. We've lost our creativity as we get older. We need to rejuvenate that creativity and be more so-called kid-like, I guess, because why not? Who doesn't like being a kid and being a little bit more carefree and a little bit more imaginative? But what I'd like you to talk about before that is that there's different types of curiosity, I guess, personalities, correct? And that maybe you could address some of those personality types, and then we'll just take it
It's
in.
different types of curiosity. There are different types of curiosity. And of course, depending on your personality type, you might be drawn to one or the other, and but understanding the different types helps you understand yourself better. So the more curious you become, even to learning more about you, the more the journey becomes more meaningful to your life. And so there is different types of curiosity. There is general curiosity, specific curiosity. There is diverse curiosity. There is social interpersonal curiosity. There is cognitive curiosity. So there are empathy curiosity, like empathic curiosity. There's different types of curiosity. And also there are exercises, and I put in the book, there's a quiz to really know like what type of curious you are. And once you identify that, it's going to help you in your walk of life to really improve in this trait, because it's a very important trait for creativity. Now, the two main basic types of curiosity is cognitive curiosity and sensory curiosity. So cognitive curiosity is the wanting to know the new about knowledge, information, and the sensory curiosity is the wanting to know about, sensation, thrills, adventure,
The adrenaline
it's more
rush thing.
sensational. And it boils down to those two main areas. You know
Hmm.
how you have somebody who wants to just curious how it feels to have a bungee jump, or just
Right.
jump off a cliff or something, that thrill feeling. I know my brother, Mo Nubani, shout out.
Yes.
He
He
always
seems to
would be
be
like,
the
I'm like, oh
adventurous
my
type.
God, what's next for this kid? Like I'm like looking at pictures and things. I'm like, are you serious? That's a white whale. Are you kidding me? Well, did you see I was in the cage? I'm like, okay. But that sensation, that thrill, and so forth. And there is healthy practice of curiosity. Trying to know everything about your neighbor because you're curious who came in, what time did they leave, and what they're doing. That's not a healthy curiosity.
Right.
So we
Well,
want to invite.
that's what I wanted you to get to is healthy curiosity. We've got just a short bit of time left, so we'll have to maybe save courage, the acronym of courage, for another time. But tell the viewers about healthy curiosity and how we can use that to enhance our life, and make it better and use it to our benefit to become better people and to have more success in our life.
Sure. So I would say it all starts with intention. Intention creates meaning. So when we identify what we're curious about, and as I mentioned, if it is something that's supportive to your growth, your well-being, serving others, and just like you would a purpose, just like you would a mission, same way you want to employ the trait of curiosity in your life. So if it is a soldier working for you, how would you want to employ it and equip it so it can hold well for you and it can bring good back to you emotionally, physically, spiritually, energetically, and all the above? It's very important because intentional curiosity is more conscious. And now with that, you can really start really being more aware of everything that you are doing and why you want to do it in a different way. The drive is changed. So if I'm curious about something because I want to destroy my competition, and the intention of everything I'm learning, and I want to do it better, not because I want to do it better to a holistic approach of serving to the betterment of
I,
all.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just have to say, when crush your competition, immediately, I tell you what, Bill Gates came to my mind because that's what he said. He wanted to crush the competition when he found out that there was another browser, I can't even remember, the Netscape came on. It's like, I gotta crush him.
There's nothing wrong with improving. There's nothing wrong with succeeding.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to do best and better. When you do this because you want to do best and better with a meaning attached to it that is really more fulfilling to your journey, and this curiosity starts serving you and others magically. On the other hand, doing it the other way, you are going to not have an inner peace while you're practicing all of that. You're constantly trying to check what is the next better thing, the more educated person, the richer one, the one that drives the this, and you're always trying to, meet to their this, and there's always going to be something higher. But when you start raising your bar and standards towards your own goals and mission and, vision, and then it starts being enjoyable. And that's where intellectual curiosity comes in and plays a beautiful role in your life, because it will guide you, it will assist you, and it will allow you to grow. And your foundation, your roots are very grounded. You get a storm, it'd be like an oak tree. You're strong. You can wither it out. You can face it different because of what you're building it off. You're not building a house on on a sand. It's not a sand. Okay, it's not gonna blow in a minute. So
Well,
it's
maybe
kind of
in
that
Florida.
same idea.
We're on a sandbar out here, remember? Make a good foundation. This is the point. You got to build a good foundation.
Yes.
That's the important point. So I'd like you to share with the viewers how they can get a hold of this book. I've got my copy, everybody. I tell you, you need your copy as well. Optimize your creative mindset. I'm reading through it. It's power. It's superpower. Corporations are going to be using this as their manual to how to become more successful. I believe that firmly. So tell all the viewers how they can get a hold of this.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Stephen. And um, this book has been such a labor of love, because it truly, truly, every part in the way it really came about, and and the information that came to me that even was never apparent before, and everything that was guided to be and happen in this book, I see why now even more from the feedback that we're getting. It was bestseller in categories of popular psychology, cognitive psychology, genius, and creativity.
Gene, I'm not
I'm
surprised.
telling you, when I saw that, Stephen, I was almost tearing. You know why?
I believe, I
Because I
believe.
have an affirmation, and I say always, think like a genius, Sophie, think like a genius. It's an affirmation, it's on my vision board.
Manifest,
And
manifest
I'm
it.
like, I had to manifest it on my first published book as a
Excellent.
category, and the content is very, very, very deep and diverse. So I'm very happy to be able to give the gift of Optimize. It's not me giving it, actually. It's I'm a vessel being used to share this with the many, many amazing people that also contributed to it, but also the people that I was able to bring back to life, like Viktor Frankl, like many other people, that like the House of Wisdom, like the Taj Mahal, like all the different stories, like Lady Diana on the deeper level, including how that related to creativity. So all these things that were all put together were very, genuine, organic, and with a purpose to serve and help that creativity to go to the next level.
That's
It's on
beautiful.
Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble,
Yes,
Google Books. If they just go on Google and put the name
yes,
Optimize Your Creative Mindset, they're going to have
right.
all the different platforms, because some people are different countries, and they were
Yes,
asking me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you can. You're in the UK, you're in Canada.
yeah.
It's in many different platforms. Absolutely.
That's so excellent. And you're right. Amazon, you can check it out. Dr. Bob Joe, he put the link in the web or in the
Oh,
comments, so
thank
you can
you.
click right on that. Thank you, Dr. Bob, for that.
All
We
the way from
appreciate you.
California, helping his Floridian pals here.
We love
Sophie and
it.
Stephen.
We love that. Thank you. Thank you for your support and getting that out there. We want everybody to optimize their creative mindset, to learn about creativity, be more creative, be more imaginative, and be more successful. Become the best you can possibly be. We appreciate you watching. This show, again, was brought to you by the LWN Live with Nature Foundation. Join us every Monday at this same time, 7 o'clock. And as well, Wednesday, you can catch us for the Ask Dr. Jenny show. We'll be talking about health and wellness. It is all about you. We're here to serve you and to educate you and help you. Remember to tell your friends about this show so they can watch too. And when together we learn, we grow together. Thank you so very
Amen.
much this evening, Dr. Sophie. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure being
Yeah.
on your show. And always we pick great things when we tune in. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you, viewers. We'll see you again. Come join us Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Ask Dr. Jenny. We'll see you then. Bye.